She said spa day. But I found something else. I spent $180 on a spa day. For a cat. Yes, a spa day. Hot towels, essential oils, the works. Have you also treated your wife's cat to a 5-star spa treatment? But friends, that's not even the craziest part of this story. My name is Thomas. I'm 44 years old, living in Atlanta, and I work as an accountant. My wife's name is not disclosed for censorship reasons, but her cat's name is Princess. Princess is an elegant Siamese with sharp blue eyes and an attitude that can only be described as royal disdain. It all started on a Thursday morning when my wife asked me if Princess could have a spa day. She's been so stressed lately, she said while scrolling through her phone. It's a full package, aromatherapy, massage, and even a tiny hot tub session. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. But there wasn't one. You're serious? I asked. Completely. It's only $180, Thomas. Princess deserves it. Only $180. For a cat. To relax. But you know how it goes. Happy wife, happy life. So, I agreed. I handed over my credit card, rolled my eyes, and went about my day. The spa day came and went. My wife returned home with Princess wrapped in a plush towel, her fur freshly brushed and smelling faintly of lavender. But then it happened again the next month. And again, 2 weeks after that. The frequency of these spa days was increasing, and the receipts weren't adding up. Each session was more expensive than the last. One day, I decided to do something I'm not proud of. I checked her phone while she was in the shower. There were texts from a number saved as Alyssa Spa. Alyssa Spa, can't wait to see you again. Same time this Saturday. My wife, of course. Can't wait. The spa. Texting her like this. My gut told me something was off. I decided to find out for myself. That Saturday, my wife left the house with Princess in her designer cat carrier. I waited 10 minutes, then followed her. But she didn't drive to any spa. She parked at an upscale apartment complex on the other side of town. I watched from a distance as she stepped out of the car, cat carrier in one hand, a small gift bag in the other. She buzzed an apartment number, waited a few seconds, and then disappeared inside. What would you have done in my place? Would you have walked up and knocked on the door? Or would you have waited to see how things played out? I decided to wait. After about an hour, she came out. But this time, she wasn't carrying Princess. She was holding hands with a man. He was tall, fit, and probably 10 years younger than me. They exchanged a long hug before she walked back to her car. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I followed her home, my mind racing the entire drive. When she walked through the door, Princess wasn't with her. Where's the cat? I asked, trying to sound casual. Oh, she said, glancing away. Alyssa said she'd keep her overnight for extra treatments. Right, I said slowly. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I drove back to the apartment complex. I buzzed the same apartment number she had visited. After a minute, the door opened. It wasn't Alyssa. It was the same man I'd seen her with the day before. He froze when he saw me. Can I help you? He asked, his voice cautious. Is my wife here? I asked. His face paled. He stepped back and opened the door wider. There she was, sitting on the couch, Princess curled in her lap. Thomas, she gasped. The silence in the room was suffocating. You said it was a spa day, I said, my voice trembling. It's not what it looks like, she stammered. Then what is it? I snapped. The man stepped forward. Look, man, I didn't know she was married. She started crying. The truth spilled out in pieces. She had met him at a charity event months ago. The spa days had been a cover for their meetings. Princess wasn't stressed. She was just an excuse. I left without another word. I drove home in silence, Princess's empty cat carrier still sitting in the back seat. That evening, she came home. We sat in the living room, the weight of the silence pressing down on us. Why? I finally asked. I don't know, she said through tears. It just happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Trust is fragile. You don't realize how delicate it is until it shatters in front of you. We decided to go to counseling. I don't know if we'll make it, but I'm trying. Some days are better than others. Princess, of course, seems unaffected. She stretches out on the couch, her paws tucked neatly under her chin, blissfully unaware of the chaos she's been part of. So tell me, have you ever followed a trail you wish you hadn't? Because I certainly have. And if you've made it this far, drop a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. We all mess up sometimes, right? I want to share with you one more interesting story from my life. My wife's best friend, Sabrina, a real estate agent earning $400,000 a year, has always had a way of making conversations feel charged. Isn't it funny how $400,000 can turn casual dinners into something else entirely? Do you think money adds an unspoken boldness? It all started when my wife invited Sabrina over for dinner one Friday evening. She's been so stressed with work lately, my wife said while chopping vegetables. I thought a nice home-cooked meal might cheer her up. Sabrina arrived dressed to the nines, a sleek black dress, perfectly styled hair, and a smile that seemed to linger a little too long when she greeted me at the door. "Long time no see," she said, her eyes locking onto mine for just a second too long. Dinner started off normal enough. The three of us sat around the table, chatting about real estate markets, my wife's latest hobbies, and Sabrina's expensive weekend getaways. But somewhere along the way, Sabrina started steering the conversation toward me. "You know, you're lucky," she said, looking at my wife. "Your husband is such a good listener. Most guys can't hold a conversation without checking their phones every 5 minutes." My wife laughed it off, but Sabrina kept her eyes on me as she sipped her wine. Would you have brushed it off? Or would you have felt the same tension in the air that I did? After dinner, my wife went to the kitchen to get dessert ready. That's when Sabrina leaned in across the table. "You know, you clean up pretty well. Ever considered modeling? You've got that rugged charm," she said with a playful smile. I chuckled awkwardly, trying to steer the conversation back to something neutral. But then she reached out and lightly touched my hand. "You know, if my husband had been half as attentive as you, maybe I'd still be married," she said softly. The sound of my wife's footsteps made Sabrina pull her hand back just in time. When dessert was served, Sabrina leaned into the conversation again, this time focusing on how some men don't appreciate their wives enough. "If more men were like you, marriages would be so much easier," she said with a sly smile. When my wife stepped out of the room to take a phone call, Sabrina stood up and walked over to the kitchen counter where I was refilling my drink. "Do you mind if I grab your number? You know, just in case I need a male perspective on something one day," she said casually. My stomach tightened. Would you have given her your number? Or would you have shut it down right then and there? I didn't answer. When my wife returned, Sabrina acted as if nothing had happened. She finished her wine, complimented the dessert, and said her goodbyes with a warm hug for both of us. But here's the kicker. As she hugged me, she whispered into my ear, "Don't be a stranger." That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the lingering touches, the way she looked at me, the whispered words. When I told my wife about it the next day, she just laughed. "Oh, come on. That's just Sabrina being Sabrina. She's always been flirty. It doesn't mean anything. But does it? Is casual flirting harmless when it's done behind someone else's back?" Since that night, Sabrina's name pops up in my mind every time my wife mentions her. So tell me, have you ever had your wife's best friend cross a line with you? Because I certainly have. And if you've made it this far, drop a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And hey, if there were any mistakes in the story, forgive me. We all mess up sometimes, right?
Subscribe to hear new interesting stories and find out how much money women spend.